Greetings, this is James Gillen with As You Wish Talk Radio. I've got a great show tonight. I've got Scott Stevens, an award-winning former television weatherman, and he discovered this global warming weather modification program going on, and it's probably why he's off the air right now. But I can go much further into that, but I want to bring Scott on right away to get into this subject. Scott, are you with us?
Hi, James. How are you tonight?
Hey, I'm just curious. Have you gotten any other weather forecasting jobs since then?
I haven't really looked. I've had the opportunity to go out. After what I went through in 2005, I just didn't figure that that I wanted to get right back into the same box. Because another station, another general manager, another news director, would have to go through what I just did. Chemtrails is not, and weather modification is not necessarily something you're going to turn on your 6 o'clock news and have your weatherman talking about. It isn't the place, believe it or not. That's not the place you go to have those topics discussed. It's what happened today, and it's the forecast and happy talk, and that's it. And so, I just really felt that it was more important that I be able to talk about some of these larger issues without those constraints. So,
I'm glad you have moved in that direction. I know back in, I can't remember when it was. It was quite a few years ago when these chemtrails first started, and I got William Thomas and a blood specialist and an environmentalist and all of these people on board, and we went on Channel 11 here locally. And
KSTP, I think.
Yeah, and we just covered the whole enchilada on this, and next thing you know, we had a very low-level spray come over the ranch, and what was interesting is the chickens started dropping. They started falling over, and we had all this chest pain on the right side of us, and we got our own personal little dose for going public.
No, if you want to talk about it, then these are the consequences.
Exactly.
And they kind of have the resources to come at you in ways that are going to be overt, like what you experienced, or more subtle ways. So it's you enter this arena at your own risk.
Oh yeah.
So, but I think most of us just kind of we have that passion, and the side effects, if you will, be damned. This is something that needs to be heard and said, and done so with some semblance of integrity. So,
I moved. Oh, go ahead.
No, you're fine.
Well, I moved up way out in the middle of the boondocks here on this 70-acre ranch, and I said I just want to get back to nature, just live a wholesome life, in harmony with each other and the planet, and kind of step out of society, and that was my program. And then I realized, I saw what was happening everywhere, to the water, to the air, to the land, and I'm going to get my own little space and just let it work itself out, and then I found out there are no spaces to go to. That no matter where I went, here this toxic concoctions were being sprayed on us, and it's very sad. And to me, I love this planet, and I love the Earth and the people on it, and that's really what motivates me in going forward. But I'm sure as you.
Well, we're all connected. We all breathe that same air. That atmosphere, sustains, a large part of this biosphere. It is an integral part of the harmony of the ecosystem of this planet, as are the oceans. And it's hard to sit back and see such blatant action going on in the skies and in the water, for that matter. Without having, environmental impact statements and public discourse and, an evaluation as to whether the investment in what's going on up there, is worth the end result. And for some person, It is, or for some group of people it is, and it is absolutely, and they will keep doing it. The question is, what's the real cost? What is the real goal? Is it truly geoengineering, where they're trying to reflect shortwave and long-wave energy back out into space to keep the planet from overheating? And if you look at that argument that that's what they may be doing out there, then how do you account for the planet cooling for the last 15 years? And that was one of the topics on the Bilderberg agenda this last June, was global cooling. And then you get into the ClimateGate papers that were released last November, and the dudes out of National Centers for Atmospheric Research saying, how do we hide the cooling that's been going on for 15 years? So there's this whole other political agenda that the weather modification and chemtrails and climate change, all of that, and taxation and global taxation, it's all wrapped up, and it's quite a big enchilada for people to try to bite off. It's not something that you're capable of doing on the evening news, let alone on 60 Minutes. There's a lot of information there that most people simply don't have the context to process. So, then we look up and we see the planes in the sky, and what's a guy to do?
Yeah, we up here we watch this just constantly, and we're about 2,000 feet at the base of Mount Adams, and there's several things going on here. One is, we're just watching heavy chemtrail spraying, and everybody's coming down with these upper respiratory problems, gastrointestinal problems, joint pain. It seems to be really knocking down people's immune systems right now. And those are all the effects of barium and aluminum and the other things that they're spraying up there.
And part of the chemtrail count relates to where you are on the latitude scale, and it also varies by season. Most of the blatant chemtrail action happens 1 to 2 days out from a storm's arrival. That's when you begin to get the high cirrus clouds, that they go through it and literally connect and create these cirrus shields. And with all of the metallic aspects and the ionization aspects, ionizable salts that they're adding to the sky, they've been able to increase the conductivity of the vertical profile of the atmosphere nearly 4-fold. And so when you look at the kind of tools that they have to work with, whether it's scalar, whether it's acoustic, whether it's orgone-based, or whether it's literally just directed energy vibrational pulses coming from from above, then they need these trails up there, and they need layers of the atmosphere to luminesce differently than other layers. And once we begin to dig deeply into this, we understand that they're creating a resultant geometry to shape and guide the jet stream, and that geometry needs to be observed at all times, and that's what these planes go out and do. They'll trace up the skies to observe how the vibrations that they've introduced into the atmosphere are actually impacting that river of air up there. And then when you add in, let's just say for example, HAARP. If they need to pulse northwestern Arkansas with HAARP, then how do they identify exactly where they need to pulse? They go out, they lay out a sortie of trails. They'll lay out squares, they'll lay out grids, and then they have to pulse. And then they watch how those trails deform, and then give it some time. And if they're happy as they take that data back into their computer models and generate a forecast, if they're happy with what they just did, they'll leave it alone. If they're not happy, they'll run another marking routine. The planes will go back out, leave trails, they'll hit the sky again, and measure the effect that pulse has had. So where you find these chemtrails is exactly where they're doing the weather modification. What we struggle with is, so I see them, I'm here in southern Colorado, and we get a lot of sunny skies. But I also have some substantial airports, from Albuquerque and Denver and Salt Lake, a good distance towards the northwest. But there's a whole other fleet of aircraft that are working the skies, and they're painted up to look like Southwest. But there's no Southwest planes there. There's no United. There's no Lufthansa. There's no British Airways. They're all conscripted aircraft to fly these particles over who knows what kind of time span. I've had pictures sent to me that are dated 1976, Ohio. There's the chemtrails, and I'm like, oh boy, this baby's old. This dog has been hunting for a while.
Yeah, definitely has. There's, it seems to be to me there's more going on because they as you said, they're using some kind of other scalar waves or HAARP technology or whatever in conjunction with these chemtrails. And, it just brought to my attention recently they have these, they call them the HAD frequencies, and they stand for hypnotic agitation and disruption. And they can actually shoot these out through cell towers or these GWIN towers or HAARP or, other ways of transmitting, even through satellites. And it seems like if they're ground-based, they would need something to bounce off of if they were trying to hit a certain location, with these frequencies. And it would be a direct correlation in trying to keep the Earth frequencies down or the consciousness down on Earth, because everybody would just be basically scrambled, with these energies. Wherever they saw a major awakening happening or power centers on the planet or whatever, they could actually use these technologies to shut them off, basically.
Yeah, and don't think that they haven't. I think absolutely there is. I think the thing that they fear the most, and this should probably give us the greatest satisfaction, is our awakening. That is what they fear the most. And so ultimately that is what we must strive for with the most zeal, with the most passion, not uncovering, conspiracies and praying for disclosure, but working on you and me so we become that awake and aware person. Because as we go through that ascendant process, then our quote-unquote GPA goes up, and then the whole classes goes up. And so it is you, it is you, it is you, it has always been you. And they have so many things to entrap our attention. I think at some point the truth of the why of the BP disaster will come out. The same for 9/11, the same for Kennedy. All of these things will be in time disclosed, and that will keep a great number of people enraptured with their story, as they reveal themselves. And that keeps you away from where you really need to be, and that is centered. So.
Yeah, I agree 100%. The